WVTT is the news station that brings you news and information that you can depend on. We are first, fast, and accurate, bringing you the only local television news in the Twin Tiers. WVTT, depend on it.
Clear and chilly tonight, a low of 25 degrees. I'll have full weather updates for you later on in the 6 o'clock report.
Now, WVTT.
Global News Update.
Countries supportive of Syria's opposition are preparing to meet in Morocco this week, but ahead of that gathering, the U.S. government is expecting to label one radical Syrian rebel group as a terrorist organization. CNN's Nick Patton-Walsh reports from Beirut, Lebanon, with more.
They not only look different, black flags, well armed and disciplined, they fight differently too. Using suicide tactics and mass casualty car bombs, radical extremists, but undeniably effective. The al-Nusra Front are behind a stream of rebel victories, overrunning regime bases across Syria, making many think the end of Bashar al-Assad is nearer than ever. So why has the United States, who also want Assad gone, blacklisted them as terrorists?
We've had concerns that al-Nusra is little more than a front for al-Qaeda in Iraq, who has moved some of its operations into Syria.
That link clear in the document filed Monday. Al-Nusra deemed not a new group, just another name for al-Qaeda in Iraq. US officials believing insurgents who killed Americans in Iraq are now fighting for rebels against Syria's Assad. But given how badly America wants influence over rebel fighters rapidly advancing on the ground, this move may make sense in principle, but, say experts right now, less so in practice.
This creates a confusing picture for the Syrians because Jabhat al-Nusra is the hardest hitting group amongst the rebels. The U.S. says it wants to take down Assad, but at the same time, they're cutting the rebels off at the knees. It doesn't make sense.
The Jabhat al-Nusra group should be considered a terrorist organization based on the fact that there are alleged connections with al-Qaeda in Iraq. In the long term, after the regime does fall, I do think it will provide an opening, since most of the rebels, while they respect Jabhat al-Nusra, they don't actually believe in their worldview, and therefore the more secular and liberal, as well as the moderate Islamists within the opposition, might utilize this as an opportunity, as well as the United States, to distance themselves. But in the short to medium term, especially prior to the collapse of the regime, I don't see how this will help out.
They are popular with some Syrian fighters who see al-Nusra behind this radical attack on an army headquarters as badly maligned heroes. The extremist bombings they're blamed for, says one Damascus commander, is actually the work of regime loyalists trying to tar al-Nusra's reputation. When America wants to put them on the terror list, he says, it should differentiate between those who fight for and defend the Syrian people and those who the Assad regime has implanted to lead the world to believe that this group is in al-Qaeda. Some Syrians even look to the organised al-Nusra Front for services and food, like this handout, where other rebel groups fail them. Since the blacklisting, online petitions have told Syrians to protest their support for al-Nusra nationwide Friday. Jihadists have congratulated al-Nusra, radical but effective. And whatever America's intention as this war rages to a conclusion, they may be blacklisted but are far from marginalised. Nick Patton-Walsh, CNN, Beirut.
Archaeologists in Florence, Italy may have unearthed the secret behind one of the world's most famous paintings. They found a skeleton that could belong to the woman who posed for Leonardo da Vinci's masterpiece, the Mona Lisa. CNN's Ben Wiedemann reports.
The smile has perplexed art historians for centuries. Leonardo da Vinci's priceless masterpiece, the Mona Lisa, or La Gioconda. In the frigid bowels of what was once a convent in Florence, television producer turned art researcher Silvano Vincetti is leading a project to find and identify the remains of the woman who posed for Da Vinci more than 500 years ago. Historical documents seem to indicate that this is the place where Lisa Gherardini, otherwise known as Mona Lisa, was buried. Beyond that, it's all a mystery. The remains of 5 females have been found here. This skull may be that of Lisa Gherardini, the second wife of a wealthy Florence silk merchant. The remains will be compared with the DNA of 2 relatives buried elsewhere. No other likeness of her has ever been found, and given that Da Vinci spent years working on the painting, it's possible the real Lisa Gherardini bears no resemblance to the Mona Lisa.
Ricostruiamo il viso, con un errore che va dal 2 all'8%.
Once we identify the remains, Vincetti tells me, we can reconstruct the face with a margin of error of 2 to 8%. By doing this, we'll finally be able to answer the question the art historians can't. Who was the model for Leonardo?
Possiamo finalmente dare una risposta.
The smile, on the other hand, will probably remain a mystery. Vincetti claims scientific analysis suggests the smile came later.
Quando Leonardo iniziò con la modella che aveva di fronte,
when, he says, Leonardo began painting the model in front of him, he didn't draw that metaphysical, ironic, poignant, elusive smile, but rather he painted a person who was dark and depressed.
Ripropose una persona malinconica e cupa.
The smile Vincetti and others have suggested may belong to Da Vinci's longtime assistant and some believe lover, Gian Giacomo Caprotti, while other art historians claim the painting was actually a surreptitious self-portrait. So we may never know if the smile was, as Nat King Cole sang, to tempt a lover or simply to confound humanity. Ben Wiedemann, CNN, Florence, Italy.
Michigan lawmakers could deal a crippling blow to organized labor today by voting to pass the Right to Work bill. Democrats oppose the measure, but Republicans hold a strong majority in both chambers and are expected to pass it. Natasha Lance has our story.
Thousands of protesters are expected at the Michigan State House in Lansing today as lawmakers take up final passage on the Right to Work law. Additional police are being called in to handle the crowds and keep everyone safe. 2 school districts near Detroit canceled classes because so many of its teachers are expected to travel to the state capitol. The bill would allow workers at union-represented employers to opt out of paying dues even though the union would bargain on their behalf. Critics say it's a way to break the unions. Governor Rick Snyder says it will be good for workers.
To be pro-worker, to give freedom of choice to the workplace, and that the legislators move promptly and efficiently in moving it through the legislature, and when it arrives on my desk, I plan on signing it.
United Auto Workers Union President Bob King says the bill is bad for workers.
The data and the facts from all the right-to-work states show that it's right to work for less.
During a stop in Michigan on Monday, President Obama voiced his support for the union workers.
What we shouldn't be doing is trying to take away your rights to bargain for better wages or working conditions.
23 other states already have right-to-work laws. Advocates of the bill say it will help attract business to the state, but critics say it will weaken labor's bargaining strength. I'm Natasha Lance, reporting.
An update on the big board. Let's look at WVTT's Wall Street Wrap-Up, brought to you by News Radio 96.7 WVTT. The Dow up 78 points to close at 13,248. NASDAQ up 35 points to close at 3022. And the S&P up 9 points to close at 1427. Sports and weather are next. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it here on News Channel 25 WVTT.